So we're on the very last page of the Tarah commentary. And it's just tips on keeping Tarah practice as a daily practice. And it says we're talking about the offerings. So in the morning, when we get up, and if we're going to do Tarah practice, and if we're not going to do Tarah practice too, it's a good idea to open your shrine. So you open your shrine by filling the water bowls from left to right, and you light an incense and a candle, as well as offering tea or alcohol and food in a small glass and dish. Also, you can put a flower in the third bowl. Also, a lot of people always ask, if the flower is still fresh, do I have to remove it? No, you can keep the flower in the third bowl as long as you like. Right now, it's really cold. I put a flower on my shrine in the house 4 or 5 days ago, and it's like, when you put a flower in a refrigerator and it just stays perfect. So you can just leave the flower as long as it looks nice and fresh. So then this small offering of tea or alcohol and food, basically you're making an offering to the protectors with that. And if you have a cercium, which is sort of the bowl with the goblet on top, that's the perfect little receptacle to make the offering to the protectors. Even if you're not going to do formally protector practice, it's a good idea to go ahead and make the protector offering every day and ask for protection for you and your family, for the Dharma, for the places of practice and the teachers. So it's best to make fresh tea every day and keep a special bag of cookies or other food used only for this purpose, or alcohol. So if you're going to use alcohol, also just use that alcohol for this purpose. Then after one has set the offering bowls and the candle and incense and the offering for the protectors, you recite Om Ahum. And as you recite Om Ahum, you visualize that these offerings and substances are multiplied without limit through the power of this mantra of Om Ahum, these 3 syllables, as well as your visualization. You can visualize the water as billowing clouds of pure offerings and qualities that are presented to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, particularly to Red Tara and the 21 Taras. They receive these offerings with great rejoicing, and their blessings shower down on the practitioner and all sentient beings. Similarly, we can imagine that incense pervades the universe with its delightful scent, and also purifies and heals sickness and obscuration, and expresses the perfect discipline of the Dharma. The light of the candle becomes the light of complete enlightenment, and flowers fill all of samsara and nirvana with their loveliness, fragrance, and beauty. Food and drink are transformed into nectar, with the quality of being able to absolutely satisfy. During the day, one adds to the offering a bit of one's own food and drink as nectar to all the wisdom beings before one partakes of them, then imagines that they are returned as wisdom blessings and nourishment to all. So this is a practice that's not commonly performed here, but in Tibet, it's very commonly performed that before you sit down and eat a meal, you take a little portion of that meal and you separate it. Put it on a napkin, put it on a small plate, and then that's offered to the shrine. The first portion of whatever you take is offered to the Buddhas and the enlightened beings and the protectors, the Bodhisattvas. I only saw Rinpoche give that commitment one time, that during the time that I was with him. during an empowerment in Chicago. And it was an empowerment of the protector practice, which he also very, very rarely gave. So anyway, it's an interesting practice. It's a wonderful mind training, and it's a great way to create merit if it's something that interests you. Is as often as possible when you're sitting down to eat a meal, instead of just automatically going into that egotistic mode of I'm hungry, I'm satisfying my hunger, is to take a moment and offer the very best, freshest portion to the enlightened beings. There are many profound teachings on the nature of offerings, especially in the context of the Tara practice. However, the essential point is to make offerings with the supreme generosity characteristic of Tara. Such generosity creates a foundation of non-attachment and open awareness that increases the accumulations of both merit and pristine awareness. Then, at the end of the day, before one goes to bed, we empty the water bowls, this time from the right to the left. Dry them with a towel and turn them upside down. At bedtime, we should reflect upon our day, honestly assessing our conduct of body, speech, and mind. Then, visualizing Tara in front of us, we should express remorse for any downfalls and vow not to repeat them, and then receive the radiance of Tara's blessing. This blessing gives us forgiveness and purification. Then, reflecting upon whatever virtue we have created during the day, we dedicate all of that to the welfare of all sentient beings, with the wish that ultimately all of them find enlightenment equal to Tara. This practice is so important that when we go to bed, before we fall asleep, we reflect upon our day. We remember anything that we did that we regret. Immediately confess that, in this case to Tara, and then receive her pardon and blessing in the form of light, reciting the Tarah Mantra. You know, they say that there's 4 times a day that if we don't purify a wrong deed, it enters more deeply into our subconscious mind or into our alaya, and then it's harder to purify it. In other words, simply put, the sooner we recognize and confess a non-virtuous act, thought, or deed, the easier it is to purify. One time, somebody told me the example of a butter lamp. When the butter lamp's still candle holder or butter lamp is still hot, it's very easy to clean the wax, or in this case, the yak butter, which they use in Tibet. Either way, when it first burns out and it's still hot, you just take a towel, wipe it, it's clean. If you let it get cold and hard, it's really a big job to clean it out. You have to take a knife or a spoon and then hot water. So it's the same way with our misdeeds and our negative thoughts and speech. The sooner we're on it, the easier it is to purify. So at the very minimum, don't let it go on till the next day. Ideally, as soon as you've committed that act, you're on it with your purification, 4 powers. But at the very minimum, before you go to bed, do this reflection. Confess any misdeeds. And not only that, any positive deeds, dedicate them to all sentient beings. Then finally, we reflect upon impermanence and pray that if death should occur during the night, Tara will be there to guide us in the bardo, so that the path to liberation will not be lost, either during the bardo or in future lifetimes. Then you can finalize by reciting the Jetsun prayer at least 7 times. Finally, if one has Tara's dream yoga instructions, we should undertake the dream meditation just before sleep. These daily practices, outlined here very briefly and simply, can have a profound effect because they are the means by which the practitioner continually invokes Tara's blessings. Like the sun's display of rainbow light in a crystal, Tara's blessings activate the radiant reality of one's innate Buddha nature. May all beings benefit. So the dream yoga instructions are offered currently by Lama Tsering. Usually she does 1 or 2 dream yoga practices every year. It's an incredibly profound practice. I recommend that everybody take the opportunity and take the time to receive these instructions from Lama Tsering, which she received from Chagdud Rinpoche. And the idea is that we attain lucidity during the dream. Lucidity during the dream means you recognize the dream, you know you're dreaming. And then there are many different phases after that of how you can work within the dream, ideally leading to not only recognizing the dream at night, but recognizing this waking dream during the day as being no different, and also being able to do practice during the dream. It's said in the teachings that when we have lucidity during our dreams, it becomes more likely that we'll have lucidity during the bardo phase after we've left this body. And that's a game changer, because if we can have lucidity during the bardo, we can direct our mind, we can wake up and direct our mind to the Pure Land, we can remember our teacher, direct our mind to merging into one with our teacher's mind. And at the very minimum, we can direct our mind in the direction of an auspicious rebirth. So the idea of cultivating lucidity during the dream is extremely profound and important. In some texts, it's said that if you have recognized the dream on occasion during your lifetime, I've seen as little as 3 times mentioned, then you will also have some lucidity during the bardo. So the more you can cultivate lucidity during the dream at night, the more chance you have to have an auspicious and positive experience after you've left this body and are in the bardo. So that's it for the Red Tara commentary. Thank you, Chagdud Khadro and Chagdud Rinpoche, for taking the time to put this wonderful little practice manual together. I hope that it's been useful to everybody.